Welcome to Farm Solutions. Today I really got a treat. I was really excited about doing this video. We're looking at the Colt AR-15A2 Delta HBAR. Now these are what we refer to as green labels. Green labels are probably they're the AR-15A2 series that went probably from 1980, I don't know, 86, 87, right up through the 1991 when the Sporter series came out. So this happens to be my favorite of all of the Colt AR-15 lines. I have a particular affinity for the AR-15A2 series. I do have a small collection of them. I don't have all of them, but these happen to be my favorite ones. We were very fortunate that our friend Alex was kind enough to loan this AR-15A2 Delta HBAR to us to take a look at. So I want to talk a little bit about why I like these so much. There was a quality issue that with these, they were just beautiful. The way the receivers were set, they weren't like the original, M16s like they were serving, Colt was making for the government. These were tight. There is no play in these things whatsoever. When you go to pull the bolts back on these things are so smooth. When these came out, the finishes, they weren't like what you see today with the mil-spec type. There was extra care that was taken to these. They would come through blemish-free, no scratches on them. It appeared as though even though they were making M16A2s at the exact same time as these came out, there was far more attention to detail for at least the commercial models, for as far as colors matching uppers and lower receivers. It was just, it was really a different time. Nice triggers, just they were just so well made. And that's pretty much the reason why I really care for them now. We still use the slab-sided receivers where we have the large front pin instead of the mil-spec type where we have the fence and the small pin. So this was still prior to that. We didn't start seeing there was more M16A2 features come in until the introduction of the Sporter series. But these are still that real original. So let's jump right into the Delta HBAR. The Delta HBAR came into production in 1987. Now, in 1986, I believe, was when this rifle here was introduced. This is the Colt AR-15A2 HBAR Sporter. What this was the very first rifle that Colt introduced to the commercial market that utilized the M16A2 rear sight. Now, of course, prior to this, you had the AR-15A2 Sporter 2. The Sporter 2 utilized the A1 rear sight. You had a standard government profile barrel, and you had basically with the forward assist, without the forward assist, with the forward assist, and the shell deflector. You had a few different generations of that. But this was the very first rifle that introduced to the market that had the A2 sights with the heavy barrel. So where did the Delta come from? The Delta was this rifle. And what Colt did was they made a couple changes to it. They added the scope, which was the Tasco Armored 39x40 scope, mounted on an arms mount, NATO mount. They added this Colt cheek riser on here. They also had their logo on here. And this particular rifle was missing it, but they had a sticker which had the Delta symbol. Now, these rifles were never marked Delta HBAR. If you had a AR-15A2 HBAR Sporter, you could easily go out and buy one of these scopes and buy one of these pieces, and hey, now I got a Delta. Now, Colt did advertise for a very brief period of time that these were range selected. They would go to the range, and if you had a rifle that was unusually accurate, that stood out, they would set them aside for the Delta HBAR. Of course, when I went and talked to the engineers, they said that wasn't the case. They just took the rifles and they added these parts to them. So this also did come with a leather sling. It was like a Marine Corps type sling, and it came with a steel carrying case that was this whole package. When you get your hands on a Delta, the only way you're gonna know for sure if it was a Delta when it left the factory was to run the serial number at Colt to see what model it was when it left. But again, you do see some people who were able to buy, because all these parts were available from Tasco, from Colt, for you to add that, and the stickers were available too. So with the actual introduction of the Delta, there was another product that was made available at the same time. Colt's Delta pistol. Delta 10mm. These actually had the Delta in the grip itself, so these didn't pop off like the guns did. So what you see here was the Colt Delta series. Delta HBAR and the 10mm Delta pistol. This was Colt's first 10mm pistol, and believe it or not, this pistol is what saved the 10mm. After the complete failure with the FBI, Colt decided to come out with a semi-automatic pistol chambered in that caliber. And this carried that over until Glock came out with theirs, and the cartridge got more accepted. The 10mm did not maintain the popularity that they expected it was. But it did take it a while for it to catch on. But these two guns were released at once. Again, this symbol here, these were on the pistol grips, but they were only stickers, and they were known to come off. So let's take a look at what this entire rifle is again. We're looking at basically the exact same rifle as the Colt AR-15A2 HBAR Sporter with these additional features. Now, looking at the barrel, what we have here is a heavy barrel. As you can see from that profile, that is much thicker than the government profile barrel. Now, this was, just as the military barrels, this was chrome-plated. And they're marked CMP 556 Nano 1/7 HBAR. HBAR stands for Heavy Barrel AR. It's not heavy barrel, it's Heavy Barrel AR. It has the M16A2 compensator, the square front sight base. As you can see, they did retain, of course, the new M16A2 handguards that are reversible. You have to have a left and a right. These are not universal. We have the Delta ring, which is now canted. And the scope, as we said, we have it's referred to as rubber armor because this is all rubber. Rubber on the outside, supposed to make it stronger. And it was a 3 to 40 millimeter scope. Now, for as far as quality of the scope, this was not what you would call a high quality scope. Even for the time period, it wasn't. I'm not quite sure how Colt chose it, but it was, mediocre at best for as far as the scope was concerned. The mount is marked Arms also on it because this mount was made by Dick Swan at Arms. And Arms has done a lot of business with Colt in those early years with making specialized mounts, for them, and and putting Colt's name on them as well as the Arms name. This one here was co-witness. When you looked through the back here, you could see through. So you can use your iron sights as well as the optic. These scope mounts, I'm not sure if they're still available. After Dick Swan passed away, the company went to his daughter, and when we're looking at the parts and everything and the catalog, most things are not in stock. So I don't know what the future holds for it, but you can still find some of these. They're probably a little bit more rare to find ones that have Colt's name on them. More common to see Arms name on them. But this scope would also come to be used on the gun that would replace the Delta HBAR later on. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So we have the fully adjustable A2 rear sight, adjustable from up to 800 meters on a area target. Now with a 1-in-7 twist, this was designed initially for the 62 grain M855 or SS109. When this rifle first came out, you didn't see 77 grain. This predates the 77 grain OTMs that we have today. You did see some of the 69 grain ammunition, but at the time when this barrel was made, it was designed for the 62 grain ammunition. However, this one with modern ammunition today, 69 and 77 grain, shoots just absolutely gorgeous. Standard charging handle, standard A2 stock with the longer stock. Now again, this is a Colt cheek riser. So you do have a groove in here, so when you pull a charging handle back, it will go all the way. If this was to be straight, the charging handle wouldn't go back far enough. Now this is held on by 2 bolts. All you got to do is unscrew the 2 bolts. It comes right apart and it comes right off. The A2 pistol grip. Now the trigger on here is the standard mil spec. This is the early Colt type trigger, which has the disconnector moved up forward, where these did experience issues with the disconnectors failing because there wasn't enough leverage on them, which was later changed to an M16 type trigger, which had the same location for the disconnector spring that the M16s did. So you had proper leverage and they didn't give away. If you do have one of these older rifles, I would recommend you get replace it with a modern trigger that has the disconnector moved to the rear of the spring. The safety, left side is not ambidextrous. This predates all that, and you have bolt catch on the left-hand side. Now, again, fit and finish, they don't move. This is not strange for the green labels. This was very much normal on all of them to have that. So this rifle would go through a couple different entities. The first one would be from 1987 to 1990, where you would have the R6700 DH or Delta HBAR. But then we had, as the dark times started to come forward, when Colt decided to give in to the government with the Sporter series, that was referred to in 1991 as the R6700 CH, or Colt HBAR Sporter. So the Colt Sporter series, all they did was remove the bayonet lug. That's all that was done. And then in 1992, they came out what was referred to as a Sporter Competition HBAR. Now that's what replaced this. Basically, all that did was it went to a flat top upper receiver. Again, no bayonet lug. A very similar mount that went onto the 1913 rail made by Arms, and they used the exact same scope. So that was sort of the lineage, because as time went on, they totally got rid of the fixed carry handles in a lot of the different models. But that was also, with starting to introduce the 1913 rail. And again, that predates the military designation. At that time, it was still the Swan rail with his dimensions on it that was going through the process to be the 1913 rail. So Alex was gracious enough to let me to go out and fire this gun. So we're taking this to our range and we're going to see how it shoots. Now, I did not want to shoot a lot out of this rifle because, again, this is an old girl, very valuable, and was very beautiful. So I only shot about 100 rounds out of it. And that ammunition was a mixture of Black Hills 77 grain OTM and 69 grain OTM. The best group we were able to get with that was .73 inches at 100 yards with the Black Hills 69 grain OTM. That was the best. The other ones were all pretty much, most of them were sub-MOA. I did have a couple that were flyers. I'm not a match grade shooter. So, I'm sure somebody who was a really good shot probably could have gotten consistently .735, but it was definitely sub-MOA. And that was also normal for these match HBARs. Although they were heavier, these rifles are not light. They weigh 8 pounds. Looking at, original ARs, M16s that weighed around 6.5 pounds, you do get extra weight from this barrel. Now, let's look at more in today's terms. Why do you want a heavy barrel? Well, same thing we had back then. That heavy barrel increased accuracy, the harmonics and whatnot. But also, when the rifle is used on rapid fire or any kind of full auto fire, this is a major enhancement for as far as durability and longevity of the barrel. The more metal you have, the more displacement you have of heat, meaning the further the rifle goes before you have cook-offs. It's a more durable barrel overall for as far as destruction is concerned. Now, Colt did make several of these different types of barrels that were not chrome-plated, and it was done for more of the match, the match line. They did make a 24-inch that was a stainless steel barrel that was designed for match. Now, at the time these came out, these were still designed as combat rifles, not target rifles, so you still had the chrome-plated barrels, which again, for any kind of a military type rifle, is it's a military standard. It's a mil spec. But they were able to get these things to shoot. Again, you generally sub MOA without without modifications with their chrome plated barrels. Many experts will tell you your average Colt, any of your Colts out of the box, even mostly today's standards, generally will be under 2 MOA, which for an assault rifle is excellent. Your average assault rifle, you're between 4 to 6 MOA at 100 yards. This family of weapons has always been accurate rifles. That's how they were designed. That's what they were designed for, was to have the best accuracy, but to have combat reliability. It's a similar with pistols. Trying to bridge the gap between accuracy and reliability is very fine, because some of the things you have to do to achieve accuracy can affect the reliability. So when you can get as close as you can with both, this is a perfect example. But this family, the AR-15A2 series, was really Colt's heyday. This is when they made the nicest AR-15s that there was. Some people didn't like them. They didn't like the AR-15A2 series because it didn't have the M16A2 type lower receiver. I'll be the first to admit, when I got out of the Army, I wanted a rifle that was identical to what I carried, and I had an M16A2. I looked at the Colt match HBAR, and I ended up buying the Bushmaster because the Bushmaster was exactly what I had. It had the exact same receiver, takedown, same barrel. I mean, it was exact. Now, Colt did have an AR-15A2 government model, which I do have one of those as well, which I absolutely love, which had the proper barrel, but it's still the lower receiver wasn't. But Colt took a while until the Sporter series to start giving, the customers what they wanted, which is the M16A2 type lower. But when they started going with that mil-spec type lower, the quality started going down. And what I mean by quality is, for as far as a commercial sale, you have to understand there's different standards for commercial and military. Military, if the upper receiver meets a color palette, it's good to go. The lower receiver meets the color palette, it's good to go. They don't have to match. There is a certain amount of wiggle that's allowed. There's a gauge that tests how much wiggle the receivers can have. The parts are all interchangeable. The military rifles are looser, and the quality control on the finishes matching is different. The commercial rifles, on the other hand, if you look at this rifle, upper lower charging handle, they match perfectly. It was a very different time. It was a different standard, not a different mechanical standard, but just a different aesthetics. As we saw once Colt Defense started going with the 6920 series, and of course once the assault weapon ban went, while I was working at Colt, people would complain because upper receivers and lower receivers didn't match, trying to tell them these are mil-spec guns. These are not, Perazzi shotguns. And a lot of guys, who were spoiled from the original days of the AR-15A2 series, a lot of the SP1s, they didn't have matching uppers and lowers. But at the time they were doing the A2 Sporter 2s, a good number of them were matching. So, again, we were extremely happy for Alex to loan this to us. I'm glad to take a look at it. I'm even happier he let me shoot it. Again, I did not want to shoot too much because, again, this is a beautiful rifle, and they're very, very rare, and they're worth a lot of money. This is probably a $3,000 rifle. These keep going up. To your average shooter, they don't care, but to somebody who knows what this is, knows the dates, knows where it came from, this is an extremely valuable rifle. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, even better, share. Thank you.